Hi you guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are doing another sit down video and I am going to be basically spilling the tea, talking about all the things I've gone through since getting off my birth control. And I've been wanting to sit down and film this video for a while now, but I wanted to give my body, mind, everything time to kind of really adjust to being off of my birth control so I can give you like a full actual honest review, I guess, of my experience. So I wanted to make sure I gave myself adequate time to really get to feel out how it's been getting off of my birth control, because I feel like that's the only fair way to make a full video about it. So we are just going to be basically chatting about all things birth control in this video. If you have been on birth control, if you're getting off of birth control, thinking about going on, whatever, this video is for you, basically just as a resource, like what my experience has been. Let me put out a disclaimer. I am not telling you to get on birth control, get off of birth control, telling you what form of birth control to be on, any of those things. I'm personally just sharing my experience with it, and know that everybody's experience with birth control is different. So some people might have a great experience getting off, some people might have terrible experiences getting off, some people might have a great time on birth control, sometimes they have a bad time on birth control. So it just depends on the person. Every person is different, every body is different. So just keep that in mind while you're watching this video and listening to me kind of explain my side of things in my journey of getting off. So let me give you a little background on me. So I started taking birth control, I believe, when I was about 16 years old, and I'm 25 now. Started taking it because I had very bad periods growing up. It was bad. I started my period when I was 13, I believe. I was in like 7th grade, so I guess I was 13. And so from that point on, I experienced like absolutely unbearable cramps. Like I would have to miss school or have my mom come pick me up from school if I had started my period that day, because my cramps were that brutal. I would be like in a ball in my bed crying, like it was not good. And then my periods were also really heavy, which was not good because I played sports at the time. I played volleyball, and so that was really frustrating. Playing a sport, which, you know, when your body is like active while you're on your period, it can tend to make you have heavier periods anyway. At least with a lot of people it does. Some people it makes you have lighter periods, but for me it just enhanced, making them even heavier. And it was just overall brutal for me for the first 3 years of having a period. I talked to my mom on and on about, I need to do something to fix this. We went to the doctor, and of course they said birth control. Now we all know that that's what every doctor says, because unfortunately it's basically like there's no other medication as women for us to be able to choose to help us with our period symptoms. That, in my opinion, is why so many young girls get put on birth control so early, because it is the only thing, if you're having issues, for them to like help resolve whatever's going on. That is what was offered to me, and I remember she prescribed me a certain brand. I don't remember the name now, but for the first week of taking the pills, I remember I was so sick. I woke up every morning and like got sick, and it was not good. And so I called her and I was like, I don't think these pills are going to be for me. And she was like, well, let me switch brands and kind of lower your dosage just a little bit. And that was the ticket. So once I started that pill, that was the brand and the pill that I was on from then up until now, basically. I never switched to any other form of birth control. I never did the ring or the bar or like any of those types of things. I just stuck with the pill because it's what worked for me. I remembered to take it regularly. I took it every night before bed, and it just, it was what worked. So fast forward to about 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which, if you don't know what that is, it's an autoimmune condition. And I, like I said, was diagnosed 2 years ago, and basically thought the worst, because my husband and I had gotten married in 2020, and we knew we wanted to have kids a couple years down the road, and I was thinking this was going to keep me from being able to have children. But thankfully it doesn't really have any effect on that. So we were in the clear there, other than the fact that I did have to start a pretty aggressive treatment, and because of the transition of that and whatnot, we basically didn't want to introduce any other factors to my body as far as getting off of any medication that I was currently on, which the only medication I was on was my birth control. So all that being said, it took me up until now, this past June, to get off of my birth control, which I had been wanting to get off for probably 2 years now. Basically ever since we got married, I had been wanting to get off. But because of other health things going on, I wanted to make those a priority and make sure that my body was good to go in that area before I introduced any other factors, which I'm so thankful that I did, because when I did decide to get off my birth control, I went to my doctor and I just told her that, you know, we don't want to have kids right now or anything, but we do want to in the future, and I've been on this pill for so long that I think it's time for me to start just getting off and getting my body regular and back into its natural state. She agreed, and she just told me that make sure I finish my entire pack of birth control and then to take a prenatal vitamin, because it'll help kind of replenish all the vitamins that the birth control was depleting my body of while I was on it. And so that is what I did. I finished a full pack right till I got to like the placebo pills, had my last period of my birth control pack, and then I just never started a new pack. And so I did order some prenatal vitamins. I got the Ritual brand. That is the brand that a lot of people suggested to me, and I've seen a lot of really great things about Ritual, so I figured it would be a safe bet to at least try those out and see how I respond to them. So got those, and I've been taking those ever since, and they have been working great from what I can tell. So that is kind of all the logistics behind me getting off of my birth control. I just wanted you guys to have some context and understand why I got on, why I'm getting off. Like I said, we're not planning a family right now. We're not trying to have children right now, but I knew I had been on the pill for so long. I wanted my body to get back to its regular state and my hormones to get leveled out and everything, so that when we do want to have kids, my body will be in a better state, if that makes sense. We're definitely not planning to have children right now. Of course, anything could happen, but that's not like we're not trying. But like I said, I just wanted to get off because I knew I didn't want to keep pumping these extra hormones into my body every single day. I wanted my body to be at its most natural state, and of course I wanted to make sure that I was prepared when we decided we did want to have kids. So now let's get into the fun part, talking about how I've adjusted since getting off. So like I said, I stopped taking my birth control at the end of June, and I don't think I really noticed much of a difference in the first week of not taking it, and I'm sure it's just like because my body was just like trying to figure out what was going on at first. Like it wasn't sure like how to adjust to not taking that pill every single day. And I did actually take notes throughout the first month of not being on the pill, because I wanted to just keep like tabs on how I was feeling. That first week, like I said, wasn't much of a difference, but then the second week I did experience some slight headaches off and on, which was to be expected. I think that was just kind of one of those things I was expecting to happen. So I did have some slight headaches for a few days in that second week, and yeah, it wasn't anything terrible. I just like took Tylenol and it was fine. And then the next week is when I really felt like I was feeling more connected to like my emotions. I definitely had increased attraction to my husband, which I was worried about, because obviously your birth control is gonna decrease your sex drive because it's birth control. Like that's the whole purpose of it. It's trying to keep you from getting pregnant. So that was definitely something I struggled with while I was on birth control. A lot of women struggle with that, but I noticed a total difference in that by like the third week of being off. And I was also worried because a lot of people say that you can lose your attraction to your significant other. Like if you had started dating them while you were on birth control and then you get off while you're with them, you can potentially lose attraction to them. So I was kind of nervous about that, but honestly I had the total opposite effect. Like I feel like I'm like more in love and more attracted to Zach now than I was before, almost. Like it's kind of crazy. So I definitely feel like I had a positive reaction in that regard. And then by the fourth week, which I have been trying to educate myself a lot more on our cycles as women and what our body actually goes through every single month. And basically the week before you start your period is called your luteal phase, and it is very, very common for you to experiencing a lot of those PMS symptoms, and a lot of women can experience them a lot more intensely than others. And I definitely think that I experienced them a lot more intensely. It can make you kind of question life. It can make you question your purpose. It can make you just feel nauseous, have headaches, feel fatigued, like all the bad things leading up to your period. So I did definitely experience that the last like 10 days leading up to my period. So I just felt really out of it. I was pretty nauseous and dizzy. I genuinely thought that I might be pregnant. That's like how weird of symptoms I was experiencing. But once I hit like the 30th day, I think, of my cycle is when I started my period. I was not expecting, honestly, to get my period back right away. A lot of women don't get their period back right away whenever they get off of the pill. It normally takes like, it can take up to like 3 to 6 months before you get your period back. So I was not sure how my body would respond if I would get it back regularly, but I can confidently say that I have seemed to get back in a pretty good rhythm with my period. I'm even on it right now, and I think I'm kind of back in that window of like a normal regular 28-day cycle. So I was really thankful for that, because I feel like that's a really good sign that your hormones are adjusting well to being off of your birth control. So yeah, that was a really great sign for me. But on the other side of it, I had really a hard time in the second month of being off my birth control, and this was probably the hardest part of being off for me, is that I experienced extremely intense anxiety. And I've always struggled with anxiety just a little bit. I've struggled with it on and off for like pretty bad for the past 2 years, but this was just like a whole different form of anxiety. Like, it was so bad, you guys. I can't even really like put into words like how bad I was struggling. I was having like weekly meltdowns. I was having really bad intrusive thoughts. I was questioning life, the purpose of life. Like it was just like borderline depression, honestly. It was really bad. And I honestly think, from what I researched on it, that it was truthfully like my hormones just absolutely crashing, and my body and brain had no idea how to respond to it other than putting myself in this state of extreme anxiety. So I dealt with that. I'm still somewhat dealing with it. I'm kind of coming out on the other side, thank God. But I really dealt with that heavily for about a month, and it was really hard, to be honest. And I posted a TikTok video about it. A lot of people had responded and said they were experiencing very similar symptoms or the same exact thing, and it did help me to feel like I wasn't so alone in feeling that way. I will say not everybody has the same experience as getting off birth control, like I said in the beginning of this video. So a lot of people get off and they immediately feel back in touch with their emotions. They feel more like themselves. They just feel more present, all of those types of things. They feel great. Then there's other people like what I experienced, where I had extreme bouts of anxiety. I was experiencing disassociation, which is really scary. If you've never experienced that, it is very, like, you just basically don't feel like you're in your body. Like, you feel like life is going on, but you're not actually experiencing it. It's a very weird feeling, but that can definitely happen. Derealization, depersonalization, all those things, from what I've researched, can be pretty common when getting off of a hormone like estrogen, what you're on for however long you're on your birth control. And so it was definitely difficult for me. I will say my second month, it was just so honestly unbearable. And I say that because it is very daunting and scary to get off of a pill that you have been on, and almost basically that you know your body's relied on for years. I know most people get on birth control and they're on it for years. It's not just like a I'm gonna be on it for 6 months and get off kind of thing. Most people are on their birth control for a very long amount of time, and so you have to, I learned, just give yourself grace and kind of know that these feelings are gonna pass and it's all for good. And I kept having to remind myself of that, because there were so many times where I was like, I know I'm feeling this way because of my birth control. I need to just get back on so I don't feel like this. But then I was like, well, when I do want to have kids, I'm gonna have to get off of birth control again. I'm gonna go through this same thing. So I knew, for the betterment of my future and all of the things that I had planned ahead, that it would be best to just ride out the storm and get this over with, so that I can hopefully get back to feeling like myself again and feeling better, and I knew it was just part of the process. And so it's kind of one of those things where you just have to trust the process and know that this too shall pass and it will get better. There's light at the end of the tunnel. I definitely was like it sucks when you're in it because you don't know when that light at the end of the tunnel is gonna come, because it feels like it's just never ending. You feel like you're like, am I just gonna feel like this for the rest of my life? I can assure you that it's not that way. Things will get better. You just have to remind yourself that it's just your body adjusting, and your brain is so powerful. It is really, really scary and crazy how powerful our brains are. And so we just really have to give ourselves grace and know that sometimes our brains are going to respond a certain way that we maybe wouldn't have expected it to, but that's just our body's way of like, okay, like I'm trying to get back to my natural state. I'm trying to get back to how I know that I need to feel. And sometimes it's just a journey. It just takes a little while, just like it does with most anything. I had to just really give myself a lot of grace and know that it was gonna get better. And yeah, but it was definitely not a fun experience. For about a month there, I just was really struggling, but like I said, I feel like I'm coming out on the other end now, so I felt pretty equipped to sit down and film this video to just share my experience with it, because like I said, I know a lot of people think it's gonna be like sunshine and rainbows to get off their birth control, which is exactly what I thought. And I think that almost fed into my anxiety more, because I was like, wait, I'm not supposed to be feeling like this. Why am I feeling like this? Everyone else that has talked about getting off their birth control does not feel this way. They feel amazing. Why do I not feel amazing? And so it's kind of one of those things where you can't compare. And so I will say in this video, like, I'm obviously putting it out to just share my experience. One, to hopefully make people feel not so alone if they are going through a very similar thing, but also to just share my story. Absolute last thing I want you to do is compare how you're feeling to how I'm feeling, because that's one thing I did when I decided to get off, and it was not helpful at all, especially when I was experiencing such intense anxiety, to think, oh, I'm not supposed to be feeling this way because all these people that have gotten off feel amazing and I'm not feeling amazing. Why? And I was just questioning that constantly. It was just feeding the anxiety, and it was just sending me down a spiral, bad rabbit hole. It was just not a good situation. But like I said, I'm coming out on the other end of it now, and I'm very thankful for that. And I definitely, like I said, I don't think I would change anything. I don't want to go back on my birth control if I can help it. I want to just keep riding this out, get fully out onto the other side, and be feeling like better than ever. And I know that that's on the horizon, so I'm excited about that, excited about the future that Zach and I have, potentially having kids. Obviously, so we're not planning anything right now, but anything can happen, and we really are excited for that part of our lives. You know, obviously God willing that we're able to have children. I also wanted to add that I have been using the app Clue to track my periods. So you can see, this is the app, and I'm on day 3 of my period. It shows me my fertility window here and my day of ovulation here. And basically this does not track your temperature or anything. I know a lot of people track their temperature. I've not decided to do that yet, just because I don't even really know. Like, I think I want to track, but I'm really worried that I'm just the type of person where I'm gonna get like obsessive over something, and so I'm scared I'm gonna get into like, oh my gosh, like, am I fertile? Am I, you know, like, I don't know if I want to go down that rabbit hole right now, especially just getting off. Like, I kind of just want to like just let my body figure things out. So I'm just really using this app to track and just documenting my symptoms daily, and when I start my period and things like that. So it definitely kind of helps in that realm. It kind of gives you an idea, like a breakdown analysis of like how, like, when your cycle is varying, your period lengths, your cycle lengths, your current cycle. Like I said, my last cycle was 30 days. The next cycle was 26 days. So it kind of gives you a breakdown there, and you have a calendar that you can look at, so you can see kind of when you're going to be on your period, how long your periods are lasting, things like that. So I think this is a really great app. It's very, very simple and easy to use. It's also free. A lot of the cycle tracking apps are not free, so I like that this one is free. I think you can like get more features and stuff with it by paying for it, but I just use a free app and I think it works great. So that is what I'm using right now to track. I do think it's important to, even if you're not taking your temperature, at least like have an app to track things, just so you have an idea of when you are going to start your period potentially, because that was one thing I relied on with my birth control, is I always knew exactly when I was going to start. Now I don't have that, so I have no idea, honestly. So it's at least helpful to get an idea with an app, which again, they're not always the most accurate, but it gives you at least a little more of an idea instead of just like wondering. And yeah, so that is my little getting off of birth control experience. I hope that you enjoyed this video and got a little insight into what it's been like for me adjusting getting off of this. And like I said, if anything, I just hope that this video was informative and helpful for you. And if you are in the process of getting off your birth control, just know that it does get better and it is so worth it. That is all for this video. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in my next one.